We are back with some more updated NHL trade rumors. Today we're focusing on 4 teams. We're focusing on the Winnipeg Jets, the Montreal Canadiens, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the New York Rangers. We'll get into all the latest trade speculation coming up next. The NHL offseason's in full swing. We've had lots of trades here lately, lots to talk about, and there's all kinds of more speculation here. As we approach the NHL draft and free agency, there's more and more growing speculation as some of these teams make their moves. There's certainly more talk about what other teams might be doing here, and I do think as each day goes along, getting closer to the draft, we're likely going to see things heat up here even more. Now, I want to get started, first of all, with the New York Rangers. I saw a report earlier from the New York Post and Larry Brooks speculating on the possibility would the New York Rangers consider going to Henrik Lundqvist and asking him to waive his no-trade clause. Now, of course, this is just him talking. He said he didn't have any inside information from the Rangers organization, so this is just a theory from Larry Brooks himself, not necessarily an inside source here, but he speculated that maybe the San Jose Sharks, considering all the improvements they've made, and they're clearly still going all in here after signing the mega contract here for Karlsson here in the last couple of days, that maybe where goaltending's been an inconsistent issue with the Sharks, would they consider trading for Henrik Lundqvist, who's had one heck of an NHL career. Obviously, he's getting a little bit older. His numbers have been down a little bit, but the team performance has been down a little bit as well. Obviously, from the Sharks' perspective, that certainly would be very difficult to make work. If it was a swap 1-for-1, he for Martin Jones might not be too bad, or it might have to be Jones plus something else. I mean, I'm not really sure how they would do that. Obviously, Jones is a lot younger, and even though Lundqvist has had the more established, better resume, longer careers, accomplished more, at the same time, he's older, declining a little bit more as well. So, not really sure how that would be valued out here. But from a cap perspective, maybe it'd be Jones and something else, which would basically make the numbers work and potentially offset from the Sharks' perspective. But I'm not sure that's something that the Rangers would want to do. But at the same time, they certainly would be able to get younger between the pipes here. But of course, as we've seen here, the Rangers are certainly in full swing to progressing this rebuild. Just finished acquiring Jacob Trouba, and I don't think they're done. There's certainly more moves to be made here with the Rangers. So that's something, just food for thought. Let me know your thoughts on the potential of a Sharks-Rangers goalie swap involving Lundqvist going to the Sharks, possibly for Martin Jones and maybe another piece, or how that deal could work out. But that's just something Larry Brooks is talking about. I don't have any sources that indicate that that's something actually being discussed. So that's just food for thought. Staying with the Rangers, though, there's certainly plenty more other players that are being discussed in the NHL rumor mill here, according to various NHL inside sources. You got guys like Chris Kreider, Pavel Buchnevich, Vladislav Namestnikov, and Jimmy Vesey have all apparently been discussed in different trade options. Vesey was linked to the Buffalo Sabres, which we did touch on the other day, but I'm not sure if that will progress or not. The New York Rangers do appear to be very aggressive here. We've already seen them acquire Jacob Trouba, and they certainly have more balls in the air here, certainly more moves up their sleeve. I do think John Davidson taking over as president, along with Jeff Gorton, are certainly looking to accelerate things and really get the Rangers winning more games and battling for a playoff spot as soon as this year. So I guess we'll see here what happens. There's certainly a fair bit of interest in some of these other forwards that they're looking to trade. So let me know your thoughts on what might be some good returns for some of these forwards the Rangers might be looking to swap out. Now jumping over to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now we actually had a few comments this morning asking for some Lightning updates, and at the time there wasn't a whole lot going on, but since then we've certainly had more news come to the forefront here. Of course, they signed defenseman Braden Coburn to a new contract extension for 2 more years this morning, so obviously I'm not completely shocked to see him stick around. He's been a pretty good fit there. They give him 2 more years at a reduced contract. He's only making $1.7 million for the next 2 years. So overall, I don't mind that deal for Tampa. They certainly need to have some veteran presence there on the blue line, and he's been a pretty good fit there. So I can certainly see that signing working out just fine for Tampa. Now, in regards to some other moves, though, it's believed, based on insider Pierre LeBrun, that he believes the Tampa Bay Lightning are looking for a top 4 right shot defenseman. He believes they were one of the many teams looking at Jacob Trouba. Unfortunately, they were not successful in that quest. They went to the Rangers. Now they seems like they turned their attention to another potential right shot defenseman who could find himself on the move, and that's Buffalo Sabres defenseman Rasmus Ristolainen. Obviously, with Ristolainen, they get themselves a top 4 right shot defenseman who can certainly have some cost certainty over the next 3 years as well, where he has 3 years remaining on his contract at $5.5 million. So there is some belief that they're looking at Ristolainen. We very well could end up seeing a Buffalo Sabres Tampa Bay Lightning trade. LeBrun's opinion, he felt like the Sabres should be asking for Sergachev in return. I'm not sure that they would want to make that move, but I can understand why the Sabres would certainly ask to have the promising young defender included in the deal. But I guess we'll see if Tampa and Buffalo do have talks on Ristolainen and what they can do. It's been speculated for some time that the Lightning were looking at a top 4 right shot D. Of course, it was mentioned before they were interested in Karlsson should he hit free agency, and that didn't happen. It's been mentioned they were one of the many teams looking at Trouba. Of course, that is no longer an option, so now they turn their attention to Ristolainen, who could potentially be a pretty good fit with Tampa. Now, of course, Tampa likely could move out a couple of forwards as well to free up some salary cap space. Wouldn't be shocking to see a guy like a JT Miller possibly get moved, maybe a Tyler Johnson or an Alex Killorn, but those guys do have a form of a no trade clause, so that complicates things. But Miller, on the other hand, can be moved without any trade protection, so that makes it a little bit easier. And of course, another player on the Lightning that's been mentioned as well in either being a trade or buyout candidate is veteran forward Ryan Callahan. Now, one thing that might complicate that, there was a source close to Callahan who spoke to Pierre LeBrun about this, who says that Callahan might not be entirely healthy, that he ended the year having some back issues, is going to have to be further evaluated. Obviously, if he can't be medically cleared to play, that's going to complicate things in a trade. Another team's not going to take him on, more than likely here, if he's not healthy, and also can't be bought out if he can't be medically cleared as well. So that could complicate things on either aspect, so we'll see what happens. Callahan does have a 15-team no-trade clause as well, so those teams have already been submitted, and I do think he probably would be open to waiving if one of the teams that are interested is not on his list, because I think he just more than anything wants an opportunity to play, but he has to be determined here if he needs any time to be rehabilitated from this back injury that apparently he was suffering at the end of the year. So that certainly could complicate things for making a move on that contract. Now, of course, since the Winnipeg Jets dealt defenseman Jacob Trouba, there's now word they're circling back to their other UFA D-men in Tyler Myers and Ben Sherratt. Obviously, that frees up enough space with the future projections there of Trouba's contract not being in the mix anymore, that they can now attempt to re-sign these guys. It's been rumored, though, that Tyler Myers is looking for a 6 to 7 year contract, around $6.5 to $7 million. And personally, I just don't see him being worth that much. If I'm the Winnipeg Jets and that's the cost, I'm probably walking away and trying to find another defenseman to replace him. I mean, for the most part, they were probably planning on him leaving anyway. I'm not really sure that I want to get into a long-term deal for that kind of money with Tyler Myers. I think he's a pretty solid third-pair guy, 5-on-5, can certainly play the power play, but I'm not sure I really want to commit that much money to Tyler Myers longer term. But that is the rumored asking price. There's another big rumor surfacing around the Winnipeg Jets as well, which is a player that we've touched on a little bit before, but this is an entirely different scenario presenting itself. There is some belief out there that the Jets have talked to the Carolina Hurricanes about Nikolai Ehlers and that they would want one of their top right shot defensemen in return. More than likely, I would think that would be Dougie Hamilton. Justin Falk's the other possibility. With Dougie Hamilton being the younger of the two, I would think more than likely he would be the piece they would want more so than Justin Falk. But it kind of makes sense that they're trying to replace a similar type of player to Jacob Trouba here. So I guess we will see where that goes or if there's anything more to that. But could Nikolai Ehlers find himself on the way to the Carolina Hurricanes? I do think he would fit in quite nicely with that top 6 forward group that they have going on in Carolina. There's a lot of good young solid players there where he could probably fit in like a glove here. And of course, the Carolina Hurricanes have more than enough defensemen that it would not be shocking to see them make that kind of trade to boost their scoring in the forward group. So we'll see if there's anything more to that here or not. Now, staying with the Winnipeg Jets here for a moment as well, there is some belief that where they're likely going to be making a move of possibly acquiring a defenseman, that maybe they should be having that conversation with the Philadelphia Flyers about acquiring Shane Gostisbehere. Now, as we just reviewed in our last video with them acquiring Justin Braun, they do have a lot of defensemen in Philadelphia. They have a lot of guys who can play the left side as well, and Gostisbehere's name has been out there in trade speculation for quite some time. Personally, after the Jacob Trouba trade, they have their first-round pick back. Maybe they could offer a first-round selection plus something else in exchange for Shane Gostisbehere. It's certainly a conversation I would strictly encourage Kevin Cheveldayoff to have with the Flyers. I think it would make a lot of sense from the Winnipeg perspective. If they're going to trade Gostisbehere, I would think more than likely they're not going to want another defenseman in return. They have more than enough of them, so they're likely going to want either a forward or a combination of future assets like draft picks or prospects. So I guess we will see what could all be included. But if I'm Cheveldayoff, I'm calling General Manager Chuck Fletcher about a Shane Gostisbehere trade and see what a deal can be worked out here. Lastly, I want to touch on the Montreal Canadiens. There is some belief that they're having conversations with the New York Islanders about defenseman Nick Leddy. Now, of course, we've talked at great length here how the Habs really need to shore up that left side defense, and ideally somebody who can play top 4, preferably even top 2, and maybe be a partner for Shea Weber. Leddy could possibly be that guy. He's still relatively young at 28 years old. His minutes have been decreasing with the Islanders, and there's a lot of belief out there that he's a prime candidate for the Islanders to trade this offseason. Nick Leddy has 3 years left at $5.5 million, so for what he can bring, that's not too bad of a contract. I think Montreal can handle that with their salary cap situation. There's some belief that the package being offered for Leddy might be Andrew Shaw and a second-round pick. Not sure if that's going to be enough to get it done or exactly what the parameters of the deal will look like, but there's also been some talk, like we had before, about Montreal trading Byron and Shaw, I believe, to the Flyers for Gostisbehere, which I don't think the Flyers are going to do here. I don't think that's going to be enough to get it done if they go that route to try to acquire Gostisbehere. For a guy like Nick Leddy, though, I can see the package maybe being a little bit more close to being what the Islanders are going to want here. If you're a Habs fan, let me know what you think about the possibility of them acquiring Nick Leddy to be a top four left shot defenseman here, and what do you think of a possible return of Andrew Shaw and a second-round pick? Would you make that deal or not? So that is all your latest updates here for today. Like I said, certainly going to be a very busy week, all kinds of activity going on, so stay tuned to Top Shelf Hockey here. I'll keep you all up to date as the news breaks. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.